My father introduced me, and now it's my son's turn. Woodworking is a passion we'll share forever. Woodcraft understands that. Their people know the right tool for the job, and they make sure we understand how to use it. Their help, it means a lot. Woodcraft knows how we feel because they feel the same way. You know, I enjoy sharing my secrets, and now Jake's teaching me some things too. Woodcraft, helping you make wood work.
Tight Bond Wood Glues, the pro's advantage.
Hello and welcome back to I Can Do That. I'm your host, Chad Stanton, and the project we've been working on is this rocking chair. So let me show you what we've got so far. On the frame of our rocking chair, we have the legs notched out for what will actually take the rocking part. The leg, you'll notice, is angled. This makes it more comfortable to sit in and just has a nice wider feel to the chair. On the side, we have the back leg is just a little bit shorter than the front leg. Again, this is going to make it comfortable to actually sit and lean in. We also have this housed joint here, so you can take a lot of weight in this chair. And then the leg itself is actually slightly angled to the back, again making it more comfortable. So where we're going to pick up now on is we're going to start working on the back. So we're going to put the top and bottom rails on it, as well as the dowels for the back. So let me get my bench back in here, and we'll start working on that. Okay, so I have the piece here for what's going to be the back upper rail. Now I've already cross-cut this to length, and I have a template. The template I got from the plans at the end of the video. And with the template, I'm just going to trace this onto my piece of wood. Okay, I'm going to cut this out with the jigsaw. Now, anytime we use power equipment, we want to make sure we wear our hearing protection and safety glasses. Okay, I want to smooth out these edges with a block plane or a rasp. Take a little bit more off. Okay, it's not bad from there, but you know what? I don't like how square this top edge is, so I'm going to use the router with a round over bit, and that's going to slightly curve this top edge. Okay, with the top rail done, I am now going to work on the bottom rail for it. Okay, so I have the back rail done, and besides using the jigsaw to cut that curve, I also used the jigsaw to rip down that 1x4. Here's why. On our chair, this lower rail, if I use the 1x4, it's actually just slightly too tall to where it hits the bottom of your back, making it a little bit uncomfortable. So now I can move on to drilling the holes for the dowels. Now the dowels are just 1/2 inch. And the reason I went with the 1/2 inch is it gives a little bit of flex. That actually cushions you when you lean back in the chair, making it more comfortable. Now I have these dowels and the spacing here, so it actually rides on both sides of your spine. Your spine is right in the middle, again, making it more comfortable. From that measurement, I just made them even going across. Okay, so let me drill that here in the vise. So from the plans, I got the layout for where those dowels have to go. And I'm using a 1/2 inch Forstner bit to make the holes. Now I want to go at least 3/4 of an inch into the rail. So I have a scrap piece of 1/2 inch dowel, and I've marked off 3/4 of an inch. All right, I've got some more to go. Good. All right, well, I have to keep doing this for the top and bottom rail, and once I get all these holes in, well, then we'll put this onto the frame of the chair. Okay, so I have the top rail in place, and what I did for this was I countersunk and pre-drilled some holes and put some screws in. Now, I want to keep this rail parallel with the leg. So I set my combination square for the distance that I want that rail back. So I'm going to do the same to the bottom rail. And again, the bottom rail is temporarily held in place by pre-drilling and countersinking just one screw in. And so you'll see that the rail is sitting back the same distance. However, I have a problem. This rail is not in line with the top rail because our leg angles. So to fix that, I'm going to have a straight edge. And what I want to do is I want to turn this rail until I close the gap on that. That looks pretty good. Okay, now with that in place, not only can I drill and put my other screw, but first I want to measure the distance between the rails. Then I have to add 3/4 of an inch to the top and 3/4 of an inch to the bottom to get the exact length where I need those dowel rods. Okay, so let me do this. When we come back, I'll have the back on and we'll start doing the arms next. Okay, so here I have what we're going to make the arm out of, which is just a 1x6. And again, from the plans, I had to make a template for the shape of the arm. So I'm going to trace this on here. And you'll notice that I have an X on the arm, so I want to mark that as well. What that represents is that is going to be where we're going to pre-drill and put a screw on. That's going to hold the arm to the leg, but also it's going to allow us to put this decorative button on it as well. Now you'll notice on this arm, besides it being cut out with a jigsaw, it's round over slightly, just like we did on that top rail. So let me cut this arm out, and from there I'll sand it, smooth it, and do the round over with the router. Okay, so this is going to take a lot of smoothing and sanding. And then I'll cut out, do the other arm, and then I'll show you how we're going to attach it to the chair. Okay, so I have both arms cut out with the round over on it. But I want to point out that here in the back where this notch is, I didn't use the round over in there. I want that to be as nice and square and tight as possible to our chair. Now remember, we made that reference mark that we're going to put some screws in to hold it to the chair. What I did first was I used a 3/4 inch Forstner bit and did a countersink with it. Then I made the clearance hole for the screw. Okay, so let me take a second to talk about the difference between clearance holes and pilot holes. A clearance hole is where the drill bit is slightly larger than the screw. This way, the screw can go through without any resistance, and it won't split the wood. A pilot hole is where the drill bit is slightly smaller than our screw. This way, the screw has something to thread into. Something to keep in mind with your next project. Okay, so let me take a second and drill my countersink hole on this arm as well as drill that clearance hole. Okay, I have to change the drill bit to put a pilot hole into the chair, and then I'll show you how I attach these arms. Okay, so I made the pilot hole on the leg here right in the center. But then when I attached the arm, I had a slight gap in the back. That could be a result of me misdrilling the arm. It could be the stretcher is the wrong length, or possibly even the wood warped a little. So what I'm going to do is I'll put the arm on there and I'll keep it tight in the back, and with an awl I'll go through and make the mark. You'll notice that the hole is a little bit to the back, but that's not going to matter much because it's going to be covered up from the arm. So let me put that on. Okay, I already did my countersink and my clearance hole. So all I have to do now is put the pilot hole in there. Now all these holes, well, I'm going to fill them by putting a little bit of glue and dowel rod in it and cut them off flush. But the one up top here, well, I want that to be a decorative feature. So let me show you how I do that after I get that other arm on. Okay, to cover this hole, I could put a 3/4 inch dowel rod in there, glue it, and cut it flush. But I want it to stand proud a little bit, adds a little extra detail to it. So I'll put the dowel in and make sure it seats all the way to the bottom, and then with the pencil, I'll mark it. Now I'm going to measure for what I want it to stick out. So let's say I want it to stick out, oh, 1/4 inch. I now have to measure 1/4 inch on the other side of that line as well. This line here is where I'm actually going to cut it. But before I cut it, I'm going to use my file and round over this edge. After I work this all the way around, I'll clean it up a little bit with some sandpaper, cut it off, and glue it in there. All right, so the template for the rocker, you could cut it out of a 1x6, but it's pretty close. And I would suggest a 1x8. The reason for that is you want this rocker to glide really smooth, and odds are you can get a flat spot here. By having a 1x8, that extra material, well, you can work your plane and test it so that each of these rockers move smooth. Once you have them both moving nicely, it's time to fit it into the chair. Now, when you're placing the rocker in, you want to make sure that it's snug, but not too tight. If it's too tight, it's going to crack your leg and ruin all the hard work you just did up until now. If it's too loose, that's okay. You can fix it with the shim. Now, I made a mark from the point of the rocker back to where I want the leg to be positioned, and that's 2 inches. So let me place this in here. And that's actually a nice fit. For the most part, I'm good to go. But take a look here. I don't like this gap in the front, and I especially don't like the gap in the back. So to hide that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a compass, and I set the compass to the distance. I need to do this for the rear and for the front as well. Then I remove the rocker, and I need to transfer this line. This is what I need to cut out and notch, just like I did on the other leg here. Again, I notched it on the front and the back. Now let's see how this fits. Now that looks a whole lot better. And to make the notch, well, it was simple. I just used the saw, the chisel, and then I fine-tuned it with this rasp. Okay, the way the rocker is actually going to be held to the legs, I'm going to drill a 3/8 hole, and then we're going to put a 3/8 dowel through there, which I'll glue in place. Okay, let me finish notching and fitting the other one, and then we'll move on to putting on that seat. Okay, so the seat is actually made up of two 1x12s, and I have them here already glued together. But now I have to fit this to the chair. So, the first thing I want to do is I want to measure the width of what I have, and I'm going from the edge of these stretchers. Then for the depth of the seat, I want to measure from the front of the leg to the rear of the leg. Those measurements then I can place on the board, rip them, and cross-cut it to size. However, I'm not done because I still have to put these notches in. The notches are the size of the leg. So I simply just take this and transfer it and cut those out. Now, I also added the roundover to the front edge of the seat, just so it eases on the back of your legs and doesn't hurt. Now, the seat is going to get attached by the pocket screws that we've already drilled earlier. And when I notched this out, I left it a little large because this is solid wood and this is going to want to expand and contract through the seasons. So let me put some few screws in this and we'll come back and I'll talk about the finish. Okay, our seat is attached, and even though I did screw it on there, I want to mention that the hole should be elongated so that the screw has some room to move when this expands and contracts. Now, the part that has to be done that nobody likes, sanding. And after that, well, you can put your finish on it. Now, I chose a gel stain for it. The reason I'm using gel stain is because pine is real prone to splotch. And a gel stain, well, it helps minimize that. And then the finish was a spar urethane. Now, a spar urethane is mostly used for outdoor furniture, but I like to use it even though this is indoor because it has more of a yellow hue to it, giving it more an antique-ish look. Well, I hope you enjoyed this project. I certainly did. I really took a lot of pride in making this one, and I think you and the whole family will enjoy having this around the house. Hey, tune in next time for another episode of I Can Do That, and we'll see you right back here.